Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of our Mentor Masterclass series. Today we are joined by Sayantan Mukherjee. Now, Sayantan is an innovation coach and mentor, and previously he worked as the innovation manager at Mahindra and Mahindra. Now, as the innovation manager at Mahindra Research Valley, he helped more than 400 engineers transform ideas to innovative products and services with a defined business model woven around them. He is also a Level II TRIZ practitioner and is an expert in applying design thinking principles to build strong business cases to solve problems. Sayantan is an expert on all things to do with design thinking and how we can implement them as individuals and businesses. And it's a pleasure having you with us, Sayantan. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for that introduction, sir.
Yeah. So, Shantan, I just gave a very brief introduction into you. Could you delve a little more deeper and give us some more insights into your background and professional journey so far?
Yeah, sure. So I started off as an R&D engineer in Mahindra, and for the first 4 years, I was developing products which basically went as a safety kit for the TUV300 project in Mahindra. So it became, I was working on making it a crash-worthy vehicle. So that was for 4.5 years, and then I decided to do my MBA from SIBM, and I did my MBA on innovation and entrepreneurship. That's where I felt really in love with both these topics, innovation and entrepreneurship. Then I joined back Mahindra as the innovation manager, and together, as you said, that with this 400 odd engineers, I went on developing some approximately 100 products, new products. And so while I was with Mahindra, I was working with Mahindra, I was developing this passion for mentoring startups, and on the job I was doing that. There was quite a lot of few young people who started their startups, and mostly they were ex Mahindrites, so it was little easy for me to connect with them, and we continued doing those things. So while I was there, I was doing that, I realized that there is one essential problem that I was finding in all these startups, which was, people make products, and most of the time the product comes when suddenly somebody says that I have an idea and I want to make something. And once they have the product, they then look for the customer. And this customer acquisition and all that, they spend heavily on it, right? Ends up into something that the customer or the market is not looking for. Now, I realize that there is a need for mentoring people design affectionate products. Affectionate products are products that your user or your customer loves to. Like say, the example I always quote, WhatsApp. How many ads of downloading WhatsApp have you seen in your life? But like, do you know people who are not using WhatsApp? Very less, right? So that's how affectionate products become. So with that thing in mind, I decided that no, this is time I quit Mahindra, and I started moving into my own venture where I started mentoring startups and creating my own courses.
Very interesting. I think one of the key things that you also incorporated in Mahindra was incorporating a sense of design thinking in the sort of approach of these engineers and people who wanted to start their own businesses. So, with this in mind, can you tell us, for anyone who's never heard the term or just wants to learn more about it, so what is design thinking, and can you explain the process behind design thinking?
Yeah, sure. Um, so as I said that this is something that I was always looking for, even for Mahindra products and products that these startups I was mentoring. Now, when you try to create an affectionate product, uh, you are trying to make it affectionate for somebody. That's the user, and it's important that you realize what your user wants. Now, that's the gap that was happening because I said, you remember, if I said that people come and say that I have an idea and I want to make a product. So if you start with an idea, then you have made the first mistake. So design thinking essentially is pulling you back to a systematic innovation methodology. Okay. And the word design thinking actually came from the word, the way designers think. Now, design at one point of time, it was all about creating a product, creating a service, and creating a business model. value to a product or any kind of a system,
Sorry,
we should
Shanta, I think we lost you there for just a few seconds. If you
is
don't
it?
mind. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Can you let me know, Nisar, where did you lose me?
Just now, just about 5 seconds ago. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So design thinking, the word actually comes from how a designer thinks, how the thought process of a designer goes. So at one point of time, if you have seen in different organizations, there has to be a design team, and design team was supposed to make the final touch that makes it more close to your user or the customer. Now that's something that has to change now. That's people have started realizing that this cannot happen at the end. We cannot get the thing that makes a product hooked to a customer at the end. We have to inculcate it in the new product development process. So that's where design thinking came into being, as is now a buzzword, I would rather say. Now, generally, if I go into the design thinking methodology, there are 5 steps, okay? And this 5 step essentially have in this 3 phases of something that what the group IDEO has created, which is starts with inspiration. And under inspiration is you get inspired by something or someone, right? That's essentially your user. Your user's problem is what inspires you to do something. That's why it's in the inspiration stage. And at that stage only, you go around and define the problem statement. That's stage 2 of design thinking. So first is inspiration through empathy. You empathize with your customer, then you move to the define stage. Here in define stage, what you essentially do is you look at the problem as is said by the customer, and then bring it out in your own terms that exactly underlying what is the problem. Sometimes what we say and what the actual problem is way different. If I have time later on, I'll give you an example, something that happened to us. But for the sake of time, let me put it this way. Definition is making it more crisp for you to solve. Okay. Then it moves on to the ideation phase. So ideation phase is more of thinking open, coming up with new ideas from things that people may not have thought about, completely novel, right? That's the ideation phase. After ideation phase, it's the implementation. And for implementation, what you generally do is 2 things. One, you prototype whatever you ideated, whatever you believe is going to solve the problem that your user had. Okay. And next, what you do, once you have the prototype, you test it with your user. Now, here, most important thing is, two things that separates out design thinking from any other methodology is the first stage, which is empathy, and the fourth stage, which is prototype. Most of the places, people after ideation, they generally go to talking to the user and telling that this is my idea, do you like it or not? Or they start with the business immediately. So they had the problem, they understood it, they came up with an idea, and they started with implementation. Now, to understand the problem itself only, this initial empathy is very, very important and one of the most difficult stages. I repeat, it is one of the most difficult stages of design thinking, because this is where most of the people or most of the organizations struggle, right? And the other part where they struggle is they don't know exactly that, okay, fine, this is my idea. How do I prototype it? Now, you cannot take an idea and talk to a user to get a feedback. You have to show them something. The problem with innovators is when we get an idea, we believe that the other person I'm talking to already have some idea, some notion about what came to us. And that stops us from explaining our idea in detail. But when you make a prototype, you can easily give it to somebody and watch what that user is doing with it. How is he fiddling with it? Now you get remarks, feedbacks about that, and you need to keep on changing. So this is what design thinking as a process is. But there's a disclaimer. The disclaimer is design thinking is not a methodology anymore. It's a mindset. Across the world, people understand design thinking. A lot of people know design thinking, but people who couldn't apply design thinking are the ones who couldn't understand that it's a mindset. It's something that has to go in your mind. So there are certain qualities of a design thinker. I'll come to it later on if time permits. But this is what design thinking essentially is about.
So it's not something that you learn and apply for every other project, but it's something that you constantly think, and that's the way you really orient your mindset, and
Yeah,
that's
it's not
really
about,
important. Yeah,
it's like you want to create a product and you say chalo, I'll do design thinking on this product and make it awesome. No, that doesn't happen that way. Are you a design thinker? The first question comes. If you are not, be a design thinker first. It starts with your life and then you go into a product. So that's where people struggle the most when they try to implement design thinking.
interesting. Now, since you worked at a very large organization in Mahindra and you really helped the engineers over there and the employees adopt this procedure, so what would you say is the importance for such a large organization to really adopt this mindset in all their processes, and how does it really benefit them in the long run?
Okay. Okay. So see, basically how it works is right now design thinking is such an important tool, such a powerful tool that there is no more an option left for big organizations. Okay, it's a must now. You have to go that way. You call it a design thinking procedure or not, you have to follow this methodology. You have to start with your user, stay close to them and understand. Now, what happens with big organizations, being a part of Mahindra, I felt this, and being also watching very closely other big organizations in auto, farm sector and various other sectors, I realized that the sheer magnitude of a organization, a big organization, is the peril, because it's very difficult to implement something new in a big organization. It's very difficult. And what actually helps over there is persistence. Like if you are somebody, if the organization is something which believes in design thinking, believes that this is something that I want to do, then they will go ahead and implement it whatsoever. Whatever happens, they will go ahead and do it. But if you look at the magnitude of change that you have to do to bring in this new methodology in your system, many people stop over there and say, okay, let us cross over this project, we will do it next project, and that next project never comes. But why they should be doing, if you ask me, I would say simply go ahead and look at the Fortune 500 companies. Okay, take the data of 2010. Okay, and take the data for 2020. Surprising fact is, of the top 10 names you will find, only 3 are there now. Okay, and more surprising fact is, if you go beyond 20 or within 20, 10 to 20, you won't find more than 2 more. So essentially 5 out of the ones who are there in the top 10 in 2010, they're not there today. So that's an essential peril. Like you cannot just ignore saying that no, this is something I don't really need to look at because this is new. This is going to create my life a little more difficult. What happens is, once we used to use this terminologies called entry barriers and all those stuff in industries. Now businesses are getting democratized. Now startups who really understand that what the problem essentially lie with the stakeholders. Now watch me, I am not talking about customers anymore, I'm saying stakeholders. And the reason why I'm telling this is because if you take a platform kind of a organization like say Zomato, where there is a customer on one end, there is a rider on the other hand, there is a restaurant owner on the other hand. So there are multiple people. So that's where you should be staying close to your stakeholder, understand where the problem lies, and then apply design thinking to implement a solution. Otherwise, if a new startup identifies that, and by the time you're thinking of implementing, they may have just taken up some technology. And this is a time of exponential, this is an era of exponentiality here. So this is going to go like bonkers. One suggestion that I will have for all the listeners who are listening to this is go back and look at a case study of Dainik Bhaskar. This is in 1996. It's an old story. Dainik Bhaskar, how on the very first day of their launch in Jaipur, they became the number one newspaper in Jaipur. How they did that? Just read that note. That will be very, very interesting to read on context of this.
Interesting. So you shared the some insights on why this is important for organizations to adopt it. Now, could you share maybe a few practical tips or pointers that they can follow to really begin the shift in mindset towards a design thinking approach, and how do they start to tackle problems from a design thinking approach if they weren't doing so already?
Yeah. So as I said, it's a little difficult. It's for big organizations, it's a little difficult. But the first thing that's they generally people make mistakes on which somebody should be careful about on start is not making any assumptions. Like that's the first thing. Design thinking to some people are certain assumptions. So there is no assumption that you should be having about two things. One, the design thinking as a process. Number two, the level of understanding of design thinking in your organization. Now, I have seen both these things causing a big failure for implementation of design thinking. Some people understand shallow design thinking, and they try to apply it in at whatever their understanding is. That creates huge problem. The other problem is some organizations, the top management believe that now that I have taken my people through design thinking courses, I got a trainer who trained people know design thinking, people understand design thinking, and let's apply design thinking. That's also a big problem. So first is understanding the real idea, that exactly where they are is very important. Point number two is you actually cannot apply design thinking straight away in a big project and go full on that the whole organization from today follows design thinking methodology. No, that's not the way to go ahead with. It has to be incremental, and this is very relevant for even startups also. Like it's not only big organizations, even startups also. A small, I mean, they once they are starting to grow, it's not possible that you immediately go ahead and apply design thinking. Yes, when you are conceiving a new product, you can do it, but take one product at a time, see the success, and once you have seen the success, you deploy it, and whoever were involved in developing that product, make them the champions, design thinking champions probably. Because I have seen this happening, that when I when we hired in Mahindra probably design thinkers from outside, and they came and they spoke, they explained, they could help understand the concept to few people. Beyond this, these few people, they became the champions, and they started speaking the organization's terminologies, the languages, and mix design thinking to explain people. And it was going straight to the heart. It was not going to the brain anymore. Because when you speak their own language, employees' language, they understand it very easily. So you should deploy design thinking in a way, in a phased manner, where you can hire initially an external trainer for once, or maybe maximum twice, to train one sect of people. But after that, you should enable this few people, empower them to the extent that they become the trainers for the organization. That's a very big thing. And one very important thing is, when you are doing this project, your project lead should be one who understands design thinking and the essence of it very well. Two reasons for it. One, budget. So if that person has the budget, and sometimes design thinking goes in a iteration loop, it happens. Now, both these two things are very frustrating for a program manager if he doesn't appreciate design thinking. They may feel that, oh my God, I am spending so much, and what am I getting? I need immediate results. But if that person can appreciate, okay, fine, this is something, they are actually making progress, they are making prototypes and evaluating with the user every day, and they are not making another product of my competitor, then they actually appreciate, and things go a little easy for the organization.
Interesting. Now, we covered most of implementing design thinking principles in large organizations, and I would also like to get into how early stage startups and founders can adopt this. But right before we head into that, could you give us maybe a few examples of how you implemented this from your own personal experience at Mahindra, and how did that go about?
Yeah. So design thinking for, I mean, this is a story that I will like to take over here.
Yes.
So we were working on, and I was very lucky to work with a lot of young engineers. Okay, so first timers, they are fresh, new ideas, and the challenge that we were given was a product which you will find in Google as rotavator, or rotary tiller, whatever you call it. Okay, it's an implement farm implement. Implement is kind of a machine, you can say, that is used to break the soil and mix the soil, and this all goes into the land preparation system. Now so this kind of a machine, it's a very big heavy machine. Okay, you actually fix it at the back of a tractor and you drag it through the tractor. So it's kind of a, imagine like a mixer grinder. It's a mixer grinder just going on the field, mixing all the way, right? Now the challenge that we were given is Mahindra as a business wanted to sell more of this, and they knew that if they continue the way they had been, if they continue to sell the same product, it's going to go the same way. The market is not going to see big change. So something more was required, but the idea was not there. What more? Okay. So now when you don't know exactly what more you can do, design thinking is the best thing to go about with, right? So it was given to us, it was given to me that, okay, fine, go ahead and do anything. And you have some fresh engineers. They are yet not into departments. So you can take them, do whatever you want to train them, take them, whatever. So I initially trained them. I tried initially training them, and then I realized that boring lectures makes no sense. So I wanted to throw them on the field, and while they learn, I wanted them to ask me. So we went ahead on a field trip, and it was I mean, it was a fun thing for these people because they were anyways into the research organization, always looking at things that is happening in a closed content area. Now they get to go to the field, talk to farmers. That was fun. So they were happily going there. And one design thinking methodology to capture insights during empathy phase is draw your day. Okay, this is something that I feel very effective. There are multiple other also, but this is something that worked that time. Okay, so draw your day is something like where you ask your user to draw the day how it had been. Okay, and so we tried asking the farmer, and he was very shy initially. He was like, oh my god, what do I draw and all that. So we said, fine, don't worry, we will draw our day and then see, and then you also can draw yours. So we drew ours, he looked at it, and then he was little, the eyes was broken, right? So he wanted to say, okay, fine, I'll draw. And then he drew. And how was it? Was like 6 a.m. I start. So he drew a very a car looking tractor, and he showed himself on the top of it. And then next stage around 9 a.m. he's doing something and all. One thing that struck us when we saw the drawing was he comes down from the tractor at 8:30 a.m. Okay, and he drew at 9:30 a.m. he is having breakfast. Okay, so so we asked that 8:30 a.m. you said that you come down from the tractor, and 9:30 a.m. you are saying that you are doing breakfast. What are you doing in between? So he said that I come to clean. So we are like, what are you cleaning? You are already in the mud. Your tractor is in the mud. What are you cleaning? He said, no, I clean the rotavator. Why do you clean? So he said that, the rotavator, just imagine guys, it's like this. So you have a mixer grinder and you have put something that's grinding. Okay. What happens if all the blades become this thick because all the thing that you are grinding, it just got stuck. So it does not grind properly, right? It happens with us also, right? Same thing was happening to him. The mud was getting stuck on the blades and it was becoming ineffective for him. Now, this is such a normal thing for the farmers that they never believed that this can be changed or something could have been done about it. And that one single thing gave us such a big insight that we never knew our product, not only our product, every product out in the market has this problem. And because this is a normal, nobody talks about it. You ask a farmer what is the problem with the rotavator, he will tell us blade will break, this will crack, that will do, but never about this because he doesn't know that this is a problem. Only when we observed and we asked him to draw, we understood, oh my goodness, there's such a huge opportunity for us to do things and give value to this guy. Imagine 1 hour he's just cleaning it. 1 hour he could have completed this whole thing. And by the time this whole thing was getting stuck, it was already not efficient. So this gave us an idea and we came up with a product which is a kind of a blade system, which is a self-cleaning rotavator kind of a stuff. So that's one of the many amazing journeys with design thinking that we had.
I think that's an amazing example, and it really highlights the key points you mentioned about design thinking, which is about empathizing with your customer and putting yourself in their shoes and understanding what their problem is. So something that wouldn't usually come out of like a regular survey or user information process. This is something that you'd only notice when you actually put yourself out there and you learn watching it happen firsthand. So I think that's a really important aspect of design thinking, which you guys implemented really well at Mahindra. Now, moving slightly towards the startup side of it, like we discussed, how can a founder who's just starting out their journey really start to think in this manner, and how can they begin to adopt design thinking principles right from the beginning of building their business?
Okay. So first thing is, see, there are a few things that I will like to tell for a new entrepreneur. First thing is, sometimes we struggle in realizing that what are we going to actually do. Okay, about business is not yet set. I am just about to start. Where do I start? What do I do? Um, so what I see tell you is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs do at this stage is look for the hot thing other entrepreneurs are doing or their friends, their peers are doing, and then say, that sounds lucrative, let me try that out. What happens is you go, you start doing it, but halfway you realize that you are dragging yourself. This is not your thing. So my suggestion is, first thing, if you are unsure that where you start, ask yourself that if you get one day to spend with someone or something, and you can spend that one complete day, never get bored, either talking to that person or people or that thing, taking care of that thing. If you have something like that, then you are on the right track. Okay, so what do if that's a people, that's say for example, if I don't get bored talking to elderly people, like probably my grandparents or somebody else's grandparents, I can easily connect with them. I can talk, or say on the other hand, if you can easily connect with children, you know that you should be doing something about that, about them, some problem that they face. So if we sometimes say, that somebody is too much pro feminine feminist kind of, that's fine. If somebody is pro somebody, I mean, if somebody is pro feminist or somebody, then you look for what problem they face now. Okay, and then try to solve it. That gives you a direction. And if it's a thing, if it's something like, say for example, animals or plants, you can look into an aspect that how you can actually do something about it. Okay, so this is point number one, that where do you start. Point number two is spending as much time as possible with that identified thing or person. Okay, so understand what they like, they dislike, they aspire to, and then you look at what is the ideal solution that would have helped, and what is the current alternative that is there, what is the gap, because that's the gap you are going to explore. So this is what you are doing, empathizing essentially, right? You are the more you talk to people, the more you try to understand. Or sometimes what happens is, in since I say empathize, mostly people think that my idea has to be human centric. That's why I said it can be a thing also, it can be plants also. Like you can go ahead and say that I want to create home gardening stuff. Fine, you go ahead and do that. If you are in love with plants, if you want to have a vision that everybody who wants to have a plant, loves plant, should have the plant in their home, irrespective of whether they are in a small house or a big house, right? So people have created businesses around it. So that's point number two, that how you can actually identify that. And remember one thing, when you are defining the problem, this is the second part of design thinking. When you are defining the problem, don't make the mistake of putting any kind of idea in it. For example, say you are trying to you are trying to create a product or a service through which somebody can easily identify the COVID hotspots around. Okay, Now, if in your problem statement you say that, how can I make an app that will help me find out COVID hotspots? You have killed your imagination immediately. Because the moment you said, how can I create an app? You are talking about an idea. When you are in defined stage, never make the mistake of talking about an idea. Keep it that how do I help somebody identify COVID hotspots around him? That's it. Now that will give you far more richer ideas, right? Now coming to the ideation part of design thinking, people make a mistake of falling in love with their own ideas rather than falling in love with the user. Remember, you have to fall in love with your user or the thing that you are caring for. And if you are talking about a user, be in love with that people so much that you really care to solve it and you don't care if somebody else gave you an idea. Most of the time we come up with very bad products because we fell in love with the first idea that we got and we couldn't come out of it. Even if people said that no, this is not good, we always gave them reasons, and that's something called confirmation bias. We always look for reasons that support our idea. So don't fall prey to confirmation bias at all. That's the go-to thing. Next part for prototyping and test is about you should be you should be keeping with you a kind of a setup that helps you in creating faster agile prototypes. That can be online ways, that can be offline ways, but ensure that those prototyping procedures are easy for you to be agile, easy for you to make changes in it, and multiple times you can do that. You can erase things because say if you are spending say, prototyping is not about completing. Don't feel happy that let me complete the prototype first. Design thinking, when you are applying, you should not be worried about whether you are able to complete the prototype. You should be able to communicate your idea through the prototype and show it to your user. Take feedback, make the changes, and keep on refining it. The final thing that you get is very close to your final product. That's how prototyping has to be. And last suggestion, this is not a part of design thinking, but this is something that I always see happening with entrepreneurs who get into an industry which is quite old. Okay, they tend to follow conventions. We always keep on conforming to things, conforming to the leaders of the industry. To give you an example, I'm seeing this happening this all around. E-grocery market, okay? E-grocery market, if you see that, the moment I say e-grocery, what comes in your mind? There has to be an app, there has to be a website, all the products will be cataloged. I'll go and I'll add, there will be a partner who will deliver. That's it. That's how it works, right? Remember, no smarter men than you actually created this norm. Why do you have to stop there? Why do you have to think that you will have to essentially create an app or a website just because people are comfortable with it? Are every people comfortable with that? Have you seen during this COVID-19, uh, the elderly people, they actually are almost stuck in their house. They are not able to go because people are telling that they are the biggest targets. They can be, they are more vulnerable to this COVID, right? So they are not able to go out as well, and they are not the ones who are very easily can go on this online stuff, be that on WhatsApp or be that a website or anything. So why can't we think, take this app or website thing out of our mind and say that if somebody is not able to get a grocery, how do I help that person get it? Go a little more niche. Why you have to copy what already somebody has done and then cry that that person is so big, Geomart has come, I will be out of the business very soon. You don't have to be worried if you are looking at a niche, but you are not looking at a niche. That's the problem. So that's why we should be focusing more on now when we are designing our products.
And I think another type of thinking which really corresponds to what you just mentioned about design thinking, also thinking as per first principles, which a lot of really well-known entrepreneurs talk about. And it's all about how you don't reason through anecdote and actually go to the crux of every single problem and then start to build from there. So instead of seeing what's been done before and seeing how to improve that and build from there, you look at the problem as whole as it is right now, and look at the basic steps of it, and see how you can really target it from its crux. So I think that's also really in line with what you mentioned. Now, something else that's been sort of disrupting the whole startup ecosystem over the past decade or so are new technologies that we call as exponential technologies. Now, these include things like blockchain, AI, IoT, and many others. Now, can you describe the impact that these technologies are having on the startup ecosystem, and where do you see this going?
Yeah, so essentially, this technologies are having a huge impact throughout big organizations, small organizations, startups everywhere. The question is, how should we look at them? How should we tackle this? Remember, every time when we go ahead and look for a business, right? The first thing that matters is a single word, which is value. Okay, nothing can break that thing. Like, if you are not providing value, doesn't matter whether you are using a technology or not, you will be wiped out of the system. Now, technologies are nothing but tools that help you provide this value. You have to understand that. And as you said that, I'll actually say that there are quite a lot of technologies like data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, as you said, blockchain, cybersecurity, then extended reality, additive manufacturing, synthetic biology. See, renewable energy, storage. So all these things are there. All these things are actually helping you to bridge the gap between what is available today and what should be available today. So we have to. So actually, I was mentoring two students who are from the Polytechnic Institute of Milan, and they were working on innovation in crisis. So they found out that during COVID, what are the innovations happened in retail and in travel. And what they identified is, there are mostly contradicting problems that are coming, right? And people are coming out and solving those contradicting problems. And when you come out and solve contradicting problems, you essentially create a very novel business. Otherwise, what happens is, if you're copying something and going ahead and doing another version of it, you can do incremental innovations. But if you want to create a groundbreaking innovation, you have to solve a contradicting problem. What is contradicting problem? It's something like this. So when one of these students, she was working on retail, and she said that, you know, the people I did primary research with, they said that I love to go to the shopping mall because I can take my friend with me, and she can actually suggest what I should be buying. And sometimes I'm confused. I don't know what I should be buying. Now, this retail store, they are not allowing more than one person to enter. So how do I do that? What do I do? Now I can call, I can do a video call and get things, but that person is not able to realize exactly how it will look on me and all those stuff. And those are things where augmented merchandising is coming, and people are actually looking into this. Augmented merchandising is some kind of augmented reality into merchandising, right? So uh, now this is in retail, but you know what? This COVID-19 has actually opened up a lot of opportunities, not only in retail, in travel. I recently came to know about one spin-off organization called Covax, and they are coming up with a synthetic vaccine. Now we are hearing so much about different countries working on vaccines, but this is first time something I heard about, which is a kind of a synthetic vaccine. Is and some people who are evangelists and all, they are saying that the effectiveness of that vaccine is going to be better than any other vaccine. Now all these things are going to be there. All these things are a part of it. What we have to think that what is the current challenge and how things are getting integrated in it. We are in a Zoom call right now, though we none of us, I guess, are using any virtual background, but most of us are using virtual background, right? Working from home has increased all these things where The virtual background is essentially a kind of augmented reality, right? It's a mixed reality. Actually, it's not augmented, it's mixed reality, but a part of extended reality, right? So um, other facts of cybersecurity also has become very important during this time. Now, where are we heading to? What is happening? What is happening is, if I give you an example from healthcare, tell me one thing. In healthcare, we call it healthcare, right? But essentially, what happens in healthcare? If I am not well, I go to a hospital, right? And somebody, I am getting treated, I'm getting better. So is it healthcare or is it sick care? When I get sick, then only I go to the hospital, right? Before that, nobody takes care of my health. But healthcare, the- by the name itself, should have been something that should have taken care of my health way before I got sick. So it's more of a proactive medical system that should have been there. And you know what? It's getting made now. We are getting those kind of sensors inbuilt clothing, which are specifically designed for a different type of people who are prone to medical illness, and they wear it, and we can monitor the health vitals and take actions based on that. Now imagine what happens. You have to be a systems thinker now. This is very important. Systems thinker can actually see that impact of one technology results to what. So if I see that I make some innovations which essentially is not making somebody fall ill, so I am essentially ending up increasing human longevity. That's a big thing, right? Today, somebody's the human longevity in the world is hovering around 84, 85. We are talking about going in the next 5 years to something close to 100. Now imagine, if somebody lives till 100 years of age, you have to have products to supply them at least till 95, specifically designed products, something that they can fiddle with, they enjoy. What will be that product? What is going to be? Do any of us thought before that we have to conceive a product for somebody more than 90 years of age? We didn't. But now it's important. What kind of entertainment will be there? What kind of systems? Now, the moment we say 90 plus, the only things that comes in our mind are healthcare related products. What if that person is healthy? You have to provide them entertainment products, you have to provide them educational products, you have to provide them a lot of stuff. So that's how we need to think, and that's how technology is impacting our future. So that's very important.
Very interesting. And we spoke about a lot of these emerging technologies or exponential technologies, as we call them, and how they're disrupting a lot of industries. Now, with this in mind, how can both large organizations and startups really stay ahead of the trend and see, and how do they deal with these changes in technology? And how do they make sure they don't get left behind and they still manage to stay relevant?
Okay. uh, See, when I as I said that my last few years with Mahindra, I had been the innovation manager there, so I was working very closely with the CTO, and I was actually making him understand that what kind of emerging trends are coming and how should we be riding it or not. So things that I used to do, I can tell you a bit. It really helped me. So one thing that's very important is you have to follow certain people, influencers. Okay, so I mentioned about Kovacs. I came to know about Kovacs from one futurist named Peter Diamandis. And wherever I go, wherever I speak, I always speak about these people, because if you just follow their work, if you just follow what they are talking about, you will get to learn way more, and you will be already ahead of the curve. People like Peter Diamandis, Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is also the inventor of our flatbed scanner, by the way. And he has been a futurist. He has predicted many things, and many of them have come to life. And in fact, they have come to life in the exact range of years that he mentioned. So there is another person that I personally used to follow, is Tony Seba, uh, more on the green energy side, and Ramesh Nam, and he's also on the green energy side. So there can be different influencers and futurists in your domain. So you have to identify who are those people, who talk about all this. There are a list of influencers that come, and you can look at that. The other thing that I used to do is looking into the reports. There are technology trend reports and general trend reports as well from Deloitte, BCG, McKinsey, and all. I feel McKinsey is something. I actually have McKinsey Insight downloaded in my phone. Whenever I get time, I just look into McKinsey Insights. That's amazing way of feeding your brain with information of what's happened around the world. Specifically for technology, you can look into Gartner technology trend. Every year they give you the S curve. Actually, that's something that comes into how a technology moves. Okay, there's a curve, and a Gartner technology trend. If you look at that they released from 2015, 16, and all that, you can compare and you will see that essentially some technologies are moving ahead. There is a life cycle of a technology, how it moves. You can get a good idea from Gartner's. All this said and done, one thing that always will help is to understand the trend of increasing ideality. Okay, this is a concept from TRIZ. And being a TRIZ level 2 practitioner, I almost like in love with this concept of TRIZ ideality. You know, think of it this way. So when the first telephone was born, the idea was to share. The initial thought process probably was that now people are separated by distance. How can we minimize the distance? The first thing they thought of, okay, let's see, voice transfer. There was to be a cord, there was to be other stuff, and we could at least hear somebody from long distance. Then the next thing came that why only voice? Why can't I see him? So that's when the video calls came, right? And then the ideal condition would have been, if I just want, I can see and hear somebody and I don't want to even pay for it. Now that's where WhatsApp video calls have now come, right? You want to talk to somebody, see somebody now without paying much or actually not paying anything. You can do that, right? So first thing at that point of time when the first telephone came, if somebody said that I want this, that I don't want to pay, but I still want to hear and see somebody, people would have said, what crazy guy this one is. But the point is, that's the ideal thing to be. And if you don't have an ideal, then you will never progress in life. So in any kind of progress that you see, any kind of trends that you see, you have to see that what's happening, what is the ideal trend should be. And then you actually can go ahead and say that next, this is what is coming. Now, I was thinking today that something that I was looking for, actually, I was looking into my, wanted to listen some music, and I was listening to Amazon Prime, Prime Music and the Ghana and all that. But I didn't get what I actually wanted. You know what? So sometimes it happens that we actually love certain kind of musics, and that's not rock, that's not jazz or anything. That's certain kind of frequency, there's certain kind of pitch that helps us feel good. If we would have always understood what a song says, then we would not have made Despacito so famous, right? So certain ways, certain things hit us. What if we have a this kind of a music app which understands what kind of frequency, pitch, and all that suits me the most, I mostly listen to, and then from the collection of the world music brings to me only musics that whenever I listen to them, I feel good. I don't need to go and say, no, no, I don't want this. It should be that level, and technology can do that. Technology, I am pretty sure that right now somebody is working on this. Definitely machine learning can do this very easily. So this is what I am saying, that once you say that this is the ideal I want, I don't want to, when I listen to say Atif Aslam song, I don't want to listen to all Atif Aslam song. I like this song, but doesn't mean that I will like all the songs of Atif Aslam, right? So I like certain frequency, certain pitch. Can the system provide me that? That's the gap, and that's the gap somebody can explore as an opportunity.
Very interesting, Shantan. Now you shared some really nice insights with us about a lot of topics on design thinking and exponential technologies. Now, just to sum up now, what would be the final piece of advice that you would give to entrepreneurs and senior leaders at large organizations in how they can really implement a design thinking process and how they can get started with this?
I think most of the pointers are covered. Only thing is, I would say that again, I will re-hammer this point, which is design thinking. Don't take it as a methodology. If you will make a big mistake if you say that design thinking is a five-step methodology. I would urge whoever watches this video, after you watch this, and later on, if somebody asks you to say that what is design thinking, don't just go ahead and say so. There are five stages. Starts with the empathy and ends with the test. No, I like you to say that design thinking, it's a mindset and you have to inculcate that. And that's one very important piece of advice. And difficulty that people face when applying design thinking is that they can't empathize well. And what do you say? What do you mean when you say empathize? Most of the time people ask me this question. There are two things: be a good listener, be a good observer. And you don't need to be in a big organization or a startup to apply design thinking. You can do it at your family. If you are a husband, go and apply that on your wife. If you are a wife, go and apply that with your husband and your kids and your friends. Try to empathize with them before getting angry to what they are saying. If something is something you don't like, don't just get angry. Try to understand that, okay, from where this person is coming and talking from and all. If you start practicing that in your own life, you will automatically become a design thinker. And that time when somebody says you can you create a product, you will automatically think that how can I create a product without even looking for whom I am making it, right? So that's how design thinking has to be made. And the training, as I said, has to be more of intrinsic. It cannot be extrinsic. So make sure that you just don't get a design thinker in and then get people trained and believe that done, my job is done. No, it doesn't work. Once or twice some external trainer can help. Beyond that, it has to be a very intrinsic process for any organization, be a startup or a big organization, to follow.
Amazing. So I think we've covered a lot during the session, Sayantan, and from everyone here at Gilda360 and everyone tuning in, I'd like to thank you for your time. And I think you've added a lot of value to us. Now, if anyone's interested in booking a session with Sayantan and connecting with him, post us also, you can visit us at Gilda360 and go to Sayantan's profile. And the links will all be provided in the description of the video.